Hello everyone, this is me, Chess Moshik, or just hello to you. And guess what? I continue my series with doing homework with you. So we're going to continue to solve this book that my coach sent to me. And if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, I come back to you from the future and say you the right answer during this video. Let's just start and improve together. Okay, here we go. We are at the board and we are solving 2 pages today from 25 to 36. And all puzzles are from white perspective. So white going up and black going down. And as you can see, the rest is circles on each of the puzzles. And first of all, if you see white and black, it means that you need to solve for both sides. And of course, if it's only white for white and black for black. And also inside there are difficulty from 1 to 10, which means the difficulty of the puzzle. So some of them going to be tricky. For example, I already see 9 at puzzle number 25. Oh my gosh, we're going to start with a really hard puzzle straight away. But it's good. We're still full of energy, right? We can do it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to quickly show you all the puzzles so you can pause, maybe try to solve them yourself or just copy it. And then we'll start to do it one by one. So this is a page of number 1 for today. And this is the page number 2. Okay, ready? Let's start. Here we go, puzzle number 25, white to go, and the difficulty is 9. As I said, we're going to start with a hard puzzle straight away. What can we see? First of all, we do have 2 pieces for rook, and we can take the rook straight away. But I don't think it's a puzzle with a difficulty number 9 if you just need to take a rook. And then there is probably some kind of repetition, I assume. But yeah, let's try to find a first win. I honestly have a look quickly when I was preparing the video, and what I've spotted that if we bring the queen here and then sacrifice it on this spot, there is going to be a fork for the king and for the queen with the knight. But the problem is that after the queen to a8, the king can go to e7, not to g7. And the question, oh wait, is it the same thing? We just move the queen to d8. Oh, but then the queen can take, right? So it doesn't work. Okay. Oh, wait, but if the king goes here, we can take this pawn with a check and then take the rook, right? But again, they don't have to move the king away, so they can cover with the queen. And then we can take a queen and take the rook, right? I think it's the right idea. Let me write it down. g7, then the queen to h8. But again, they don't have to take, right? But yeah, but what if they don't take? Okay, so let's go for the line I'm always confident in. So they go here, here. The queen goes to h8. And if they take, then the fork. Easy. What if they don't take? So they cannot go here on f6. They can go either on f6 or h6. On h6, it's the same idea. And we have a fork, but question what to do. So the queen is on h8, the king on g6. What do we do? If we give a check, they can block with the rook. Yeah, I was thinking, what if we pin the rook? But then, I guess they take the knight, we take the rook. It's the same idea as we just take the rook here, right? So it should be something else. What if we take the rook, they take here, we go to check. It's not working. Let's check out the different side and see, because if everything else is working, it should work somehow. So if the king goes here, that's what I was counting, right? We'll just maybe take a pawn, and if they go to here, we can just have a rook for free. But the question is there is any repetition after removing? Because the queen goes here, and if the queen is on the spot, right, they only can block and check here and this spot, and the king has to probably move. So this is a little bit questionable, so probably need to do everything with a check. And if the king moves somewhere here, right, and we just take rook with the queen, they take the knight. We go for checks, they cover with the queen, but we can... Okay, let's try to move it on a board. So queen here on a8, the king moved to g7, and my idea is to go queen h7, because if they take, there is a fork. Easy. Busy. But the problem starts here on g6. Oh, maybe not. Maybe yes. I don't know. I was thinking maybe I can just take this pawn. Oh wait, maybe here we can give the check with the bishop. The queen moves to e5, and after this check is fatal. Okay, I think we found it. So we saw the same first move, the queen to a8, the king goes to g7, and then the bishop to e5. The queen has to take f5, and then we're sacrificing the queen on h8. And again, if they take, there is still a fork on f7. And if they move, we'll just having a queen. And as it takes knight, we are winning here anyway. Oh, they even cannot take the knight, right? Because the queen is protecting the knight. That's good. Now let's see on the other side. So they're moving to queen to king to e7. So I assume everything is check, just because I don't like those repetition lines. And I assume there should be something forcing. And honestly, again, I don't want to move my queen out of the diagonal, so let's not take a pawn. Just give it check. And if the king goes here, then there is a fork. And if the king goes either on e or f8, then we take in a rook with a check. However, the king can go to f6. And the question if we can sacrifice the bishop again. Maybe I just don't like my bishops anymore. But okay, let's see. So bishop to e5. And if the queen takes e5. Oh wait, this doesn't work anymore because I don't have this spot. Okay, it doesn't work anymore. I didn't consider, I still thought I can go to h8, which is silly. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm so silly. Oh my godness, silly me. Silly me, of course, it's just a knight fork on the royal fork. Oh, God's sake. Okay, great job, I found it. Okay, puzzle number 26, and we're solving it for both sides. And difficulty number 1 for white and number 5 for black. And let's start. So let's start with the white one. What can we spot here? And the first things I'm thinking is about sacrifices. Doesn't feel right. Oh, I see. Okay, I found it. It's actually beautiful. So the rook b8. So the queen is pinned. The queen cannot move out this line. So the queen takes the rook, and then we have a knight fork here on d7. And for black, again, what can we spot here? The pawn is pinned. Then there is some discoveries here with this rook. I don't know if it does give me anything, but maybe it does. Maybe there was some funny business here. And then the gh. And we can maybe not here. What if we take here straight away? The king take on f2. And after this, we do have some double checks. The question is if there is a good double check here.
40 minutes later.
Goodness me. Okay, we found it. I found it. Okay, I'll just show you. So bishop here. Rook g5, and the king goes back to f3. Then we're doing a quiet move, which is c5. And we're allowing this rook sacrifice, rook b8, but we don't take the rook because we do have check on rook f6. Hello guys, here's me from future, and this is the first puzzle that we did wrong. I did wrong. And white is correct, but the answer for black is wrong. I knew that I fixated on this bishop to f2 too much, and the idea is that we need to bring the queen into the game, and to do that we have to sacrifice equality, rook takes knight, and after rook takes knight, we're just bringing the queen to g4, and there is a mate. The only way to help mate is to go g3, And here we have a queen to f3. Again, the mate is threatening. After they take the knight, we take in with the queen. And after they go in here, there is a mate on f3. Game over. Okay, puzzle number 27, and again, solving for both sides, white and black. White is a difficulty number 1, and black is a difficulty number 4. And we can see the king here, so I suppose we just sacrifice the rook. King takes, and the knight fork. Okay, black is a 4, so black is a little bit more complex. There is a checkmate side, yes, with rook here, but the knight is on the way. But if we sacrifice the queen, then the king will have escape on c3. What is slightly off for me? And considering this tactics for white on g7, I probably have to act with the checks. Okay, is the rook queen still sacrificed? Let's check it out. The king takes on c1. The rook takes on c1 because the king cannot take on c1. We're given a check with rook a8 to a2. The king has moved to c3. Wait, is it checkmate? If we check here, oh, the rook can... Oh, maybe the rook here first on c1. So the king is here. And if the king goes to d3, we have a check. And the king has no escape, it's checkmate. If they're covering with the rook, we give the check again. Is it? It's actually working. Okay, let's try it out on the board. So rook takes, rook goes to a2. The king only move on c3. Then we take in a rook on c1. And if the king goes to a d3, then there is a checkmate. Yep. And if they're covering, then we take in with the rook. Kings go again on d3. And we haven't checkmate with the bishop on b5 again. Let's go with the puzzle number 28. And again, two sides, difficulty 1 for white and 5 for black. Hopefully not that much struggle as 26. But we'll see. Okay, for the white is a similar deal as the previous puzzle, so we're sacrificing the rook on g8. And after the king takes, we're taking the bishop on e7 with a check on the king and the queen. And for black one is a difficulty number 9. Is it really number 5? But is it back rank here? Wait, did I set it up correctly? Okay, queen here, rook takes, a rook. The only move is a queen, and then we take. Don't I see something? Oh, I know, I see it. Okay, so the queen goes to d1. The queen can come on c1. And then there is no checkmate. Because we can take, but the rook takes, and there is no attack. Can we just take the rook and say thank you for rook? Maybe there is no checkmate. If we sacrifice here, the king takes. But then king has escape. Why is this rook is here? Maybe there is something. I don't know. Oh, wait, but we cannot... Oh, wait, maybe we can. Okay, wait a second. Rook here. I was saying, oh, thank you for rook, but then the pawn takes, right? But if the pawn takes, then there is rook goes to h1. The queen goes... Can we try it on the board? I feel like I'm a little bit lazy today to think on mentally everything. So let's just visualize this position. Nothing, 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 nothing. Maybe we can distract the queen somehow. But we need to check, otherwise we have a problem. Maybe rooks to g7 solves the problem, but then rook takes g7 and we still have the same problem. Houston, Houston, we have a problem. I see it. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I think it's a rook sacrifice over here. Because if they take in with the pawn, then the queen takes h1. And then the cover doesn't work. And if the rook takes, then we're still going to d1. And now the rook is not here, so even the cover we just take. Wait, the question is... the question is here, right? Yeah. Take, take. And if they take, we still have a checkmate. So they have to take here, but it's still not working. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, guys, we are genius. Here we go, puzzle number 29. Again, solving both sides, and difficulty 1 for white and 3 for black. And let's start with the white ones. So of course we've seen the fork first, but the knight is there. So let's just give away the knight, the rook, and then fork the king and rooks. And if we take the rook, we will have rook and knight versus rook. So we will win. Okay, black one. So it should be a little bit trickier. But what we can see for black, first of all, the pawn is strong. Then the king has no squares to go. So there might be some mating ideas somewhere. Right now it's not working, but maybe it does work. Wait a second, can we sacrifice this rook after? So the king has to take. And then we have the second rook on g1, and this is a back rank. Yes, I think it's right. Knight goes to d2, the rook goes. Then we're sacrificing rook here on e1, and king moving to e1, and the rook to g1, and it's checkmate. Cool, puzzle number 30, and both sides, and difficulty 2 for both sides. Let's start with the white. I assume there is some forking ideas as well. Maybe I'm assuming wrong. Maybe I'm assuming right. Oh, I know. Okay, so we're sacrificing the queen on h4. The queen takes queen, and after this we're sacrificing the rook on g7, and the king takes, and then we're going forking on f5 and winning the queen, and we have knight and rook versus rook. Okay, here am I again. The answer is that we're winning a rook at the end of the variation, and we have to force it. So we have to sacrifice the rook, and after the king takes, we're just giving a check and winning a rook here, because both queen and knight is targeting the rook. And for black one, can it be back rank again or something? So the queen goes to h1. Let's check the check first. And what we can see is a rook to... Oh, wait, I know, it's a skewer one. So we're sacrificing the rook first on a1, and the queen taking, and then we're having a queen to h1. We're winning the queen for the rook. Beautiful. Cool. Puzzle number 31. We're moving to the second page. And the difficulty for this puzzle is number 2 for white and number 4 for black. And let's start with white. I'm assuming there are forks again with knight here. So rook on g7. And if the king takes, we're forking with forking king and the queen. The question is, what if they don't take? Oh, then we're just having a knight. Okay, and for black one, again, there is some forking ideas. But the bishop is, oh, pawn is here. So, question is, can we sacrifice the queen? So queen takes h3. Pawn takes h3. Wait, there is some mates one. The knight goes on... Oh no, we're having the rook after as well. Okay, the knight goes to f3. And after this, the king can only move to... Yes, the king can only move to h1. And after the knight moves, this is going to be discovered attack. So when we take in the queen with the knight, this is a discovered attack. So the king has to move somewhere back, and we take in the rook. Okay, let me show you what at least I'm thinking is the right one. Okay, if they take, then we're just moving the knight. The king moving, for example, to h1 or g2. It's still the same diagonal, so it's not that much of importance. And the knight takes queen. This is a discovered check, so the king has to move, and we're winning the rook. Okay, the question is, after taking, what if here? Can we still give a check with the knight? And after the pawn takes, it doesn't work. Okay, sorry. There should be more decisive. So maybe bishop takes, rook takes. No, maybe it's too much of sacrifice.
Eternity later.
Oh wait, oh my gosh, that's so simple actually. Okay, we start with this move. Wait, with the king g1, right? You know what the most obvious moves are? We're taking the rook. And the rook on d7 is hanging. Okay, we found the answer. Okay, here we go. Puzzle number 32. Both sides again. 2 difficulty for white and 5 for black. There is a check with the knight, but right now if we want a fork, then the queen is on the wrong spot. I mean, technically we can sacrifice the rook here. Queen takes, and then we take the bishop with the forking queen. But then the rook takes, and it's queen versus rook, which is winning. It's fine. This would be my final answer. Rook e8, queen takes e8, and then fork on f6. Okay, black one, which is difficulty 5. Funny business. By the way, we can take a pawn, and the pawn cannot take, so it's a good thing. King is moving, and if we sacrifice the rook, king takes, and queen to a5 with a check, the king moves back, and then we take in the rook. So my answer is a rook to a3, king goes to b1, then we're sacrificing the rook at a1, and after the king takes back, we're having the second check, king only has moved to b1, and then we're taking a rook. And after the rook goes to a2, because again it's only move, we can give check again and take the knight. Cool. Let's do puzzle number 33, solving for both sides and difficulty 2 for both sides. And starting with white as usual. Something funky here. Again, rook sacrifice is not working. How do you want to bring queen to the right space? There are also some forking ideas for the rook. Wait, there is not fork on this, on this one. It's a fork on d7. So the rook to d7, queen takes d7, and then the knight on f6. Okay, let's go to do for black. This king is weirdly placed. The question if I can somehow use it to my advantage. Can we sacrifice the knight? The pawn takes. If we sacrifice the knight, I need to also check if those things still working. Yeah, it's not good. Okay. Maybe we're taking this knight. So we take. I've been thinking maybe knight to d4, but there's no idea there. Any back ranks here? So if technically we just sacrifice, for example, then moving to d7. There is no back ranks. Okay, I don't understand it. Oh my gosh, I see it. The bishop takes, and then we just take the bishop on d4. And the idea is that after the pawn takes rook, we have in the second bishop on b2. And we have, what do we have? We have bishop and 2 pieces. So we have 2 pieces for the rook. Yeah, we'll spot this answer and we'll pray. Puzzle number 34. And it's only black to go with a difficulty of 4. And as we could see, it's like black knight and the rook for against queen. And I assume there are some mating ideas or winning the queen ideas. So maybe, so this is a check, right? Where the queen has to be to for this check to work. It's easy here, so it's not that good. But okay, let's go see it anyway. Maybe there is something more interesting than. Also, by the way, this check might be interesting. If with the king, for example, this goes there. No, by the way, that might be interesting. So if the pawn goes to g4, and the king goes to, for example, h4, then we have a check. The king's moving to g5. One more check. It cannot take a pawn. And it cannot move anywhere. So maybe this is a checkmate. And if the king goes to g3, then we can give a check on g2. And if the king takes, then this is a fork. And if it doesn't take, and for example we here, it go here, so it only can go to f3. Then again, okay, but it was, oh no, it would be checkmate. No, it's not checkmate because I have to take. Or they have to go here, and we're coming back to the variation we already had. Okay, that's a beautiful one actually. So just g4. And the last puzzle that I solved wrong on this video is this one. And honestly, it was really tricky even when I discussed it with the coach, because even with her help, it took me ages. So we do want to make a fork, right? But the king has to be either on g4 or on g2. So how do we want to g2? There is just a quiet move. Rook to g2. And if they take, we have a fork. And if they move a queen somewhere, like for example, let's, I don't know, go here, like for example, right? And then there is a checkmate. Isn't it insane? But it's so beautiful. Love it. Cool puzzle number 35, and the difficulty is 5, and we're solving it for white only. First I was watching is the sacrifices of the rook. Sometimes it's really beautiful working. By the way, maybe it does work to some extent here, but then the queen takes and I don't really feel it. Also, we do have some pins going on. Can we do some funny business? Maybe bishop to e6, not the knight to e6. So the rook takes, the knight takes, and then we're having the bishop. But oh no, there's a queen takes, and then, yeah, then still pinned. So maybe there is something within these lines. And then the check, and if the king has to take, right? Oh no, it can go to... But then I have a check. And the king moves here, and then there is nothing pinning me. And I have checkmate. Okay, maybe. So take. Do they have any funny business? Take, rook takes. If they take, there is a fork. If they move, they cannot move. Oh my gosh, I'm so silly. Okay, they cannot move, so they take and we have a fork. Last puzzle for today, puzzle number 36, and we're solving it only for black, and the difficulty is 2. I really want to give a check, but the rook takes. So maybe we'll start with the rook. The king takes. And then there is checks. And after this, the king moves somewhere here on f2. Then there is a check with the queen, so it cannot go to f2. If it moves to... It cannot move to h2. Wait, it does? It also can... Oh yeah, it also can go back to g1. And then we're given a check on g8. And the king can only have this escape. Okay, and if the king from here goes to, for example, g3, then again the check. And if it goes to this way, we can give a check. Okay, it doesn't really... Okay, I think the rook to g2 is correct. I just don't see it further. Okay, if the... So here, and the bishop to c6. Okay, let's... I didn't manage this with g3. Let's go check what to do with h3. Are we giving away a piece again and just like go with the queen or queen on g8? But then... Oh, but then if it moves back, then it's checkmate. But it does have to move back. It cannot move here because the knight also targeting. Okay. Okay, let's try maybe. Oh, maybe we start with the queen, by the way. Again, the rook goes here, then the check. If the goes to h1, then we have a check here, and it's checkmate. And if it... Okay, so it was the wrong order. So the king cannot move on these squares, on these two as well. But it works here. Beautiful. Let's save it. Okay, we're done. Last puzzle is solved. Okay, guys, we finished for today. I'm so freaking happy was a few really rough puzzles. I know that few of them probably is wrong, but you already know it. And here's the result. So a few pages is done, and I have something to send to my coach. Thank you for being here. Please follow and subscribe, and see you next week. Bye bye.